Thinking. Okay, it started. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm Elena. I'm one of the leaders at the Peak, the Performance Innovation Collective. We are a group of people that are trying to change how performance management is done across North America. So we usually invite guest speakers to join us on panels like this one, where we are discussing performance. And today we are going to talk about neuroinclusion. So today we have three amazing panelists, and I will start with Lisa. She is a founder of MindMosaic Inclusive HR, where she helps organizations better understand diverse neurotypes in the workplace, strengthen team communication, and reap the benefits of universal design strategies. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for joining us. Then we are having Nathan. Nathan is a cybersecurity leader and neurodiversity champion. Welcome and thank you for joining us, Nathan. And then lastly, Rachel is a certified coach who helps neurodivergent high achievers lead with clarity, confidence, and authenticity and find more fulfillment personally and professionally. Welcome, Rachel, and thank you for joining us today. And a little bit about myself beyond the pick. I'm also the founder of InspirePath Leadership Solutions, and I'm supporting small, medium businesses to elevate their leadership and people strategy through mentoring, coaching, and fractional executive leadership. And we are going to get started. Now, for the first part, I'm going to ask the audience to join us and interact with us on the chat. I will pass it on to Rachel, and we are going to start off with some questions for you, our audience. Rachel, on to you.
So first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me here and welcome to everyone in the audience. So we thought we would start with just a little bit of discussion about neurodiversity and neurodivergence. And the first thing I want to ask you is, have you noticed any smart high achievers in your organization who are outspoken, for example, about issues like equity and accessibility, social justice? They won't play politics and they won't just do what they're told. So if that sounds familiar, we would love to see your responses in the chat. Maybe you've noticed people in your organization who always seem to be several steps ahead. They think fast. They may also get visibly frustrated that other people aren't there yet or don't see what they see. So if that sounds familiar, we'd love to hear it. How about some high achievers who don't necessarily communicate all that effectively? They either hesitate to speak up or they hesitate to answer questions. They might take a while to process their responses, or sometimes they talk too much and don't really read the signals about when to stop. How about people who are extremely detail-oriented and perfectionistic and get frustrated when other people aren't? Or some more high achievers who are very, very sensitive to feedback and seem to take everything personally. If any of those things sound familiar, we'd love to see your responses.
So, our guest, what do you think? Does that apply to you? I see that Melanie said, yes, that's me. I also sometimes see myself in some of those descriptions as well, and I've seen it in the workplace. Anyone else that has either observed that behavior or maybe that's how they would describe themselves? Okay, I see that Emily, it's about to write something. Eugene, okay, what does that mean? I can read that emoji in so many ways. So give us a bit of more details there. Listen, Nathan, have you observed this type of behaviors in the organizations that you've been working with over the years?
Definitely, and quite often. And there's so much miscommunication due to these different behaviors of people just not understanding the reason why behind the behavior.
Mm-hmm. Nathan.
Yes, I totally see it as well. Neurodivergent people are very dominant in the tech cyber fields where I work at.
Mm-hmm.
And we also want to emphasize this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination. These are just some traits that people don't always associate with neurodivergence and can indicate that someone thinks a little bit differently, feels a little bit differently. And we're gonna get more into that. It's just to sort of get you thinking a little bit about some stereotypes that we might have, or some ideas that we have about what neurodivergence looks like and doesn't look like.
Mm-hmm. So Eugene wrote, yes, I could be described as such. Okay, now that makes sense. Your emoji. And then Emily, yes, I work with a healthcare client that supports neurodivergent employees and had a lovely conversation with someone who is autistic and how it shows up for him. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for sharing. What we would like to do next is to kind of clarify a couple of definitions related to the topic, and I will pass it on to Lisa to take us through this part of the conversation.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Eugene, yes, I could be described as such as well. And Emily, I'm glad that you phrased it in that way, where how it shows up for him, because it does show up for everyone very differently and at different periods of time. So neurodiversity is a term that describes like a natural variation in how the human brain functions, including areas such as attention, learning, memory, sensory processing, and communication. So neurodiversity is it's a natural variation, just like biodiversity in nature. And each one of us has a brain that's wired uniquely and differently, and no two are the same. So then we have neurotypical, is a term often used to describe someone whose brain functions as in the social average or the norm, usually functioning that in alignment with social, educational, and workplace norms, and how they process information and interact socially. But like, what really is normal, right? An autism advocate and professor, I'm sure many of you have heard of Temple Grandin. She once said, asking for the definition of neurotypical is like asking what the average size of a dog is. Is it a Shih Tzu or is it a Great Dane? So, and then we come to neurodivergent. So this is a brain that is seen to function outside of the norm, or what society has historically defined as normal. And so that might include differences in communication, learning, focus, sensory processing, and emotional regulation.
Okay. Yeah, Rachel.
I was just going to say, there is a saying in the neurodivergent community: if you've met one neurodivergent person, you've met one neurodivergent person. So
I love that so much. That is so well said, Rachel. Yes, indeed.
I think to go to elaborate on exactly how true that is I'm neurodivergent. Both of my girls are neurodivergent. They came from me and my husband, and all three of us have the same diagnostics, and we are all completely different in how we present. And it's really great right now. And I'm in menopause and the girls are teenagers. The hormones are making everything going a little crazy.
So for the next part of the discussion, I'm going to invite all three panelists to join me as we are discussing about the benefits of implementing neuro-inclusive business practices in organizations. I would agree That is the best thing that can happen in an organization. But I would like to hear more from you as to what specifically do we gain by doing this.
Lisa, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sure. So personally, and we've all discussed some of the benefits of universal design and implementing universal design practices within the organization to benefit everybody. And I'll give you a little definition of what universal design is. So universal design is the concept of designing the environments and systems within your organization so that it will benefit as many people as possible from the outset without requiring any additional accommodations later. And so this could look like setting clear communication across all the different thinking styles, ways of reducing sensory overload, such as having collaborative workspaces as well as quiet workspaces, and avoiding rigid one-size-fits-all systems. Hand in hand with that is inclusive design. And so it emphasizes actively involving the individuals within your team within the design processes, and acknowledges that there's no one size fits all for everyone. So it focuses on flexibility and choice. And so that could be flexible starting times, offering choices, and asking the individuals on your team what they need, and not just assuming by someone having a diagnosis that you know what they have or what they need. I had one individual who came to me, and she was having a really hard time at work because she had disclosed that she had ADHD, and her boss had said, well, here you go, here's your accommodation. And she said, well, man, that one doesn't really work for me. And he's like, well, the book said ADHD. This is the one that works for you. So this is the one we're going to go for. So to be able to really work with your people and know that accommodations can also change as needed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that we've talked about is that the benefits of having everyone on your team engaged. We're all involved with HR people here, right? I think that nobody needs to be shown more clearly what the benefits are of having everyone on your team engaged. There are a lot of people who will not necessarily ask for help. There can be a stigma associated with asking for help. There are people who have asked for help in previous organizations and run into challenges from that. People might be afraid of some sort of retaliation, of being fired, of losing, of being demoted or not being put on some of the projects that they want to be put on. And the kind of design that Lisa's talking about, universal design and inclusive design, benefits everyone. It means that no one has to step up and put themselves in the spotlight and put themselves at risk. And everyone gets the benefit of in various ways. So there's an example that's used a lot in accessibility circles, the curb cuts. So, the curbs on the street that have that cut out for, they were originally made for wheelchairs for veterans of the military. And yet, look at all the people who use them. I mean, people with strollers and baby carriages and who are just carrying lots of suitcases and things like that. So one example of thinking about design that actually benefits everyone. And there are lots of examples that we came up with just talking among ourselves about ways to implement those in workplaces.
Mm-hmm.
And also, ideally, if an accommodation is needed, ideally, you should not have to force a person to disclose their condition. It should be as easy as, like, say, buying things from a catalog, something so easy that they can just choose and get what they need without having the difficult conversations. Because if you make it too difficult, people are going to be too afraid to ask for them, and nobody wins.
There's a lot of shame associated with asking for adjustments, and I don't have the stat currently on me, but the stat showed that something like 80% of individuals who ask for adjustments are typically neurotypical individuals, like a mother who wants a flexible schedule to be able to pick up her kids for extracurriculars. At first, that stat surprised me, but then when I was thinking back and reflecting on my past work experience, and I know that I would have done everything possible before admitting that I needed help. And having to go through the process of proving that you need help is really, really intimidating. And once you receive that accommodation, how your others view you can create more othering, like, why does so-and-so get a flexible schedule, or why does so-and-so get different workspaces? And if you think of it in the other way, where let's say you, as an organization, brought adaptive software into your organization. So yes, that helps someone who has ADHD or dyslexia, but then it also helps someone who has English as a second language. And it also helps a mother who's working at home and wants to hear her emails read out loud while she's cooking craft dinner for her kids. So across the board, it creates inclusivity and a connection, and moves us away from the othering, and just increases productivity and a happier workspace.
One of the things that we talked about also was how to find out what people need without necessarily outing anyone or asking them to come forward when they may not want to do that. And I know that Lisa and I, Nathan, I'm not sure about you, Lisa and I both have experience with something that comes with a lot of different names, user profiles or user guides, personal user guides. In my case, I designed these for a couple of different teams that I worked in team ops for. And it's basically a guide to me. And you provide one for everybody in the organization. You put them all in a central location where everybody can look at each other's. And you make it part of the onboarding process too, so that every new person who comes in gets to read all of them, learn about the other people on their team, and include their own. And the questions can include things like, what's your preferred style of communication? Do you like to have video calls? Do you prefer Slack or email? When you're on video, when you're on this kind of call, do you prefer to have your camera off or on? How do you like to be recognized when you have had some sort of success? Some people want public recognition. Some people are very embarrassed by that and just want something private. What time of day are you at your best? What kinds of food sensitivities or allergies or anything like that do you have? You can make it really, really broad and cover all kinds of things. And you can also make it open and let people tell you what's one thing that you would really like other people to know about you that they might not know, when they first meet you. And give everyone an opportunity to write as much as they want to about themselves, or as little, but still participate in this sharing of preferences.
Oh, I love that. I love that practice. And I think it's so helpful. And it just makes it better for all of your staff members. And it's addressing all of their needs. And that, for me, that's inclusivity in the workplace.
They were very popular too on the teams that I did them with.
The organizations that I've spoken to who have used them quite often are more in the UK and Australia. There was one tech agency, and the HR lead, whenever someone new came on, they would say, everyone get your profile up to date because someone's new, so that they would know exactly what's there. And she would say to her team, I don't need to know your labels. I just need to know how you work best. And I always loved that. And these different types of profiles really break down miscommunication, because that's the biggest thing of the two-way street. So for example, I'm a late listener. If you come into my office and I'm at work and I'm focused on what I'm doing, I don't hear you, I don't see you. And so it's happened in the past where people are like, wow, like Lisa really doesn't value what I'm saying. Like, she ignores me when I walk in the office. So by providing clarity around that, to say like, oh, I really do appreciate, what you're saying. Like, I'm a late listener. I'm really focused. If you could just say my name so that I can attend to you, I would love to hear everything that you have to say, so that it breaks down those little bits that can cause animosity and barriers within organizations.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts, Nathan, on this?
I think part of it is also culture has to change as well, because it's not just accommodations. People need psychological safety. They need to be safe to ask for what they want and feel supported by not just the manager, but from their team members as well.
Mm-hmm. And you know what, Nathan, you really created the opening for the next section of our conversation, which is the psychological safety. What's the role it plays in really boosting the performance of neurodivergent employees? So let's just continue the conversation in this direction.
Has anyone ever heard of the term Ubuntu? It's a South African philosophy, meaning you're defined by your compassion and empathy for others. Nelson Mandela spoke of the practice of when someone new is coming into the village, that you go out and you offer them food and water before they ask. And it's having that care and compassion within your organizations as well. So instead of, at the bottom of a job post, having, if you require any accommodations, let us know. I don't know who's on the other side, if they've just cut and paste that, or if they really mean that, and what's going to happen if that's going to impact my interview process. Like my anxiety goes through the roof. So instead, if you could say, these are all the different accommodations that we use within this organization, could you use any of these, or do you have any you can share that could, benefit any of us? That relieves the anxiety. And it also, like, look at your branding. Who wouldn't want to work for that organization? It's like, that's impressive. I had a job interview once, and my talking got me way offside, and I didn't get the interview because my mind goes in like 3 different ways at the same time. So the next time I got up the nerve and I asked for some accommodations so that I could have the questions first, so that I could read them. When I went into the interview, they said, well, how are you going to be able to handle quick fire questions if you had to ask for the questions first? So it didn't really matter what my answers were past that point. They had already made the decision. So by creating that psychological safety beforehand, and people know what to expect and what's coming, and who they're going to be seeing on the other side, it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Along those lines, so there are ways that organizations can create safer environments for everyone without necessarily asking everyone what they need. And a few ways that organizations can do that is, for example, when there are meetings that are scheduled, especially for meetings that aren't regularly, that don't have a regular cadence, don't just send out a meeting invite with a name on it. Send an agenda, send an explanation of what the meeting is about. Send the agenda in advance so that people have a chance to look it over, understand, are there going to be questions? Is something going to be asked of me? Is there something that I can prepare in advance? If there are going to be things that are discussed in the meeting and you need people's input, offer different ways of gathering that input. Some people are going to be very comfortable speaking up, and they may be very comfortable speaking up, last minute and answering questions that are just posed to them. Some people are really going to want advance notice and time to think about it, and they may not be comfortable speaking up in a group. So if you can use a digital whiteboard, Miro or Mural, or one of the many that are out there, and create spaces on it for everyone to be able to participate. Maybe have an anonymous Dropbox or something that people can also send ideas or comments to, so that people feel safe. I could go, this is something I'm super passionate about and could go on and on and on and on and on about, but there are lots of ways to do it proactively. Like Lisa said, nobody knows who's on the other side. So just asking what accommodations do you need isn't necessarily going to get you any input at all. Getting out there and saying, we can offer X, Y, and Z, we can offer A, B, and C, lets people know that it's okay if they ask for those things. or just putting them all out there and letting people pick and choose without them having to, again, out themselves or be embarrassed or shamed by asking for help.
I love that. And to make it easier for you, instead of trying to figure out all the different things that you can do, ask your people. They're going to have great ideas and suggestions. They're the ones who are within the roles. They know how things can be flexible, and different things that they can implement. And if you as leaders show your own, the different strategies and different things that you use, they're going to have that greater comfort level to do so. And another thing with, when you're offering, if you send all the different questions and bullet points that you are going to expect within the, that you're going to be discussing within the meeting beforehand, having people have that time to process means that everybody on the team is going to have a quicker and more meaningful, more productive meeting, because they will have time to have process the information. Who doesn't want quicker meetings, right? So it's beneficial across the board.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree. I mean, I love all of these ideas, and I would actually want to hear more.
I was wondering if anybody who is here with us right now, do they have any different adjustments or accommodations that they've seen or used that they have found really beneficial within, their organizations or workplaces?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question.
Looks
And
like
I see that some of the people are writing, yeah. Mm-hmm. Nathan, do you have any thoughts while we are waiting for our audience to engage a little bit with us about psychological safety? I know you're very passionate about it, so the floor is yours.
Sure, why not? So psychologically, to go another step beyond, I think it also comes down to the team dynamics. Think, for example, like when you first enter a room and first time you join an organization, ideally you want to feel welcome. You want to feel like you're part of the team instead of feeling like an outsider. So ideally, you want to feel like you're part of the team as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, Nathan.
So
And in my career, I've had it both ways. Sometimes there's some jobs where I was always an outsider no matter what. But there's some, like my current position, where I feel very much open to be myself. That is an amazing place to be if you are free to be yourself and not mask.
So how would you guys say that leaders can support with that feeling of belonging for people in general? How can we achieve that?
One of the most important things that leaders can do is be authentic. So this is an ongoing conversation. I was just writing about this on LinkedIn today. Leaders often feel that they have to fit a certain persona, and they have to be very professional, and they have to be distant, and they can't bring themselves fully to work. If they don't bring themselves fully to work, if they don't show up as fully human and authentic themselves, they are sending a signal to everyone else in their organization that it's not okay to be fully yourselves at work. So the first thing that they can do is show their human sides. If they don't know an answer to something, admit that they don't know an answer and that they're going to go look for it. If they're having a crappy day, admit, look, things are not going that well today. I need a little extra time. Or, sorry, it's not you. I'm just dealing with some other stuff. Rather than putting on that mask, which so many of us can identify with, and making everyone else feel like they also have to put on that mask. The more the leader allows and invites in. One of the things that I love is giving and receiving feedback. So here's an example. Leaders can ask in their one-on-ones something. First of all, I think we would all encourage leaders to have one-on-ones regularly and feedback conversations regularly, and not just, once every quarter or once a year. In those conversations, ask something like, what can I do 10% better than before that would support you in your role? And the reason that it gets so specific is the 10% is not intimidating. It's not saying, oh, my manager really sucks at this and I'm going to tell them that. It's saying it's an invitation to share. If you just change this one little thing, this one behavior, this little piece of something, I can bring more of myself, or I can be more effective or more productive. And the more you offer those invitations, the more people will get used to them and feel freer to accept them and to actually give you that input and feedback. So a few things leaders can do.
I love that. It reminds me of a story that I heard from Brene Brown once. She was presenting about leadership to a group of generals at the Air Force. And she said, you have to have care and compassion and connection for the individuals on your team. And she was getting a whole bunch of pushback. They were saying, no, my job here is to lead you. It's not here to like you. Like, this is ridiculous. And one of the, I don't know all the different, one of the top generals from the back stood up and said, I 100% agree. If you don't have care and connection for the people on your team, then they need off your team. And I think if leaders not only 100% show their authenticity and their own weakness, because that does make you more in the eyes of another, to be able to learn the why behind behavior of the people on your team. Like, if you have those open connections and open conversations to learn the why, then you'll get that care and compassion and empathy. So like myself, I'm a visual learner. So I think completely in movies. I had no idea until like a few years ago that I found out that other people don't think in movies. I was like, so visual thinkers think faster than they speak. So a lot of times, and especially in times of anxiety, it's almost like you're translating a different language, right? It's you end up you're like right now, your words come out jumbled, or you sound a little bit unintelligent, right? And that's not what you want people to think of you, or how you want to be perceived. So if your manager, your boss, your team understands this, and so like for myself, if I want to be able to get my point across, I typically, and I've been doing it this whole time, is I write it down first, so then I have the words clear for my in my head, so then I can speak it out loud. And so just knowing that brings the team together, because then it's not, you understand the why behind the behavior, and I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
To build on what Lisa was saying, I think leaders, and we talked about this a little bit behind the scenes, often leaders, especially newer leaders who might be overwhelmed, who might have a bigger team than they can really easily manage and pay attention to, they see the team as a team. And that's logical, right? But what they're not seeing is the individuals. And to Lisa's point, getting to know each person on your team as an individual human being, and not just their role or part of the team. And those user guides, for example, that we talked about, is one way to do that, but just having regular conversations with them and understanding what motivates them. So one of the things we know is that neurodivergent people are often motivated by alignment with purpose and with mission-driven goals, not necessarily by gamifying something and giving them lots of prizes. What works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another person. So getting to know them all, understanding how each person individually is motivated, is the best way for a leader to, first of all, show that they care about their team, and to generate loyalty and productivity and effectiveness from the team.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, let's move to a little bit more practical solutions and strategies. And we've already touched base on a couple of them, on how can HR professionals and leaders, functional leaders, can improve their performance management practices as it comes to the neurodivergent groups. But to keep in tone with our theme for today, that benefits everyone across the business. Go, Lisa.
I think the biggest thing is actually to elaborate what Rachel was saying. I was a regional manager for an organization, and we had 100 staff, we had 20 clinicians, and they were all out. It was all in the community, so it was very much like herding cats. And so what I started doing, and it was basically just there was so many fires happening and I didn't know what was happening. So it was more of a means to an end, or a way to put out the fires. I started doing 15-minute check-ins and doing it on rotation with everybody in the organization. And my original thought of doing that was just like, okay, so I need to reach out to everybody. So if they have any issues, if it's clinical, I know who to direct it to. It's like a triage. When I started doing the conversations, I also started asking them questions like, what are your interests outside of work? What are your future goals? What systems are working here and what aren't? Like, what do you think? And by having this, it was like the number one change or system that I implemented that made the hugest impact within the organizations that I worked at. Not only did I get to know them, I got to know their outside interests and passions, so that if there was a way that I could change their job description or their roles to be able to go towards their goals, I was able to do that. I was able, instead of having them stranded and worrying about different things that they're not sure about, I was able to help them with training and support. We were open about different strategies. As you can see, I talk a lot and I share a lot. And so they felt comfortable coming to me. And by having that transparency and openness, all of a sudden, it wasn't just me implementing these things. They were coming to me. It was like an open door of sharing, like, I had this great idea, because they had that comfort level. And there is no greater gift you can give anyone within an organization is to know that the words and the work that they do is impacted within the organization. Everyone needs value and purpose. And so I think that's like what Rachel said was exactly it. That's the number one thing. Everyone likes a Starbucks here and there. You know what I mean? It's nice to be thanked, but to know that your work and your thoughts and your value has an impact at the office and people are listening to you, like no one will ever leave. You'll never have to hire again. Just value your people.
Yeah, Liz, I think that, what you just described is true leadership and embracing employees' whole self and not making a difference of who are you during work hours, who are you outside of the work hours. And, I'm crazy passionate about leadership. And whenever I see someone acting just that way, I just feels my heart, because that's how you get the best results, by embracing someone's individuality from all of the perspectives, not just who you are, what's your skills. Okay, this is your resume, these are your responsibilities, and that's it. Because that's not going to make people to be loyal or engaged, like everyone has mentioned so far.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think real quick, start with the basics. People don't want to be just a number. They want, ideally, if you want to know their name at the very basic level. And to share one story real quick, I used to be head of IT for the governor in Hawaii. So whenever she went to an event, she always had her assistant with her to tell her, whisper in her ear, oh, this gentleman here is Mr. So-and-so. His wife's name is this. His kid's name is this. This is what he does. Like, ideally, we would love to have that in real life. But if the manager even knows a person's name, I think that'd be good starting point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, to tie in with a couple of things that have been said already, letting people, so you've hired people because you thought they were great. You thought they were going to do a great job and they had the skills required for the job. In terms of job descriptions and letting people do their jobs, focusing on outcomes and results rather than on the way people do their jobs, or even what time of day they do their jobs or where they do their jobs. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but the more you can give people autonomy to do the job that you hired them to do in a way that works for them, the more loyalty and dedication the organization will inspire in them, and the more effective all of those people will be for the organization. So less focus on, I need you to do it this way, or please do X, Y, and Z to get to that outcome. These are smart people you're talking about. Give them the outcome that you're looking for, and then let them figure out how to get there by themselves. If they want help, they will go to their managers and ask for it if they feel safe doing that.
Yeah, I agree. And I would add to what you just mentioned that sometimes, in order to be aligned with the business or the nonprofit vision, we should give them some guiding principles as to how they should be acting as they are performing their activities. But I'm all there with you. I generally don't tell people how to do it. I'm telling them this is the outcome. If you need help, let me know. If you need inspiration, let me know. But yes, generally, you can't go outside of those guiding principles. Like, there's no way that you can achieve something in an outrageous way, because then it defeats the purpose. Would you agree with that, Rachel?
Can you rephrase the question? I got a little.
So we should allow people to just do their job, focus on the outcomes, but we should also give them some guiding principles as to what the organization is expecting in terms of acceptable behaviors or ways of being and acting.
So I think I totally agree with that. But I think when anyone is interviewing for a job, if they're going to be an employee of an organization, I think that should be part of the interviewing process, the onboarding process. I think that's something that most companies tend to do. Not all of them do, but there should be, corporate values. There should be, so one of the things that, and maybe this is what you're getting at, Elena, so one of the things that I did along with user guides for the teams where I was in ops, managing ops, was playbooks, setting out expectations for, this is how we communicate with each other. This is what we expect when you jump on a call. We expect, if you have questions about a project, for you to ask about them. There also are the corporate values, the team values, the organizational values, and those all have to be made very clear. I see those as a little bit separate from an assignment, which is more what I was thinking about. But yes, you're right. When you're looking at a job description as a whole, that it should definitely include information about how the organization operates. Absolutely.
Nathan, tell us more about what you just wrote in the chat. And then Lisa, we will turn it over to you.
Yeah, so real quick, ideally when a person asks for accommodations, it should be easy. Just like I said, it should be something as easy as ordering something off from an online website for shopping. Should be that easy. Unfortunately, as the trends we are seeing, it's getting more and more difficult to get accommodations, because legally, the laws in the US, the companies are legally required to provide accommodations. Unfortunately, the trend is putting more and more roadblocks and red tape to get in the way. That makes me very sad to see that happen.
It's huge. To elaborate a bit on what we were talking about, so everybody needs framework and structure, but to be able to have the flexibility within that structure. So let's say, I was consulting for a union before, and someone had messaged and said, there's someone who's autistic and we have to come in, one day a month, and he said he's not coming in. So what do we do? That's in the collective agreement. And so I asked him, like, well, have you asked him why he doesn't want to come in? And what is why is it necessary that he has to come in for that one day? just to find out, like, what is happening at the office that he doesn't want to come in? And like, what difference is going to make in that? Like, to ask those questions, then you'll get the why, not just this is what the collective agreement says. And another thing that's been coming up quite often with the consulting clients that I'm having in, and I think this is so vital, is humans innately don't like change, and all of us, and I can pretty much, if I ask this, everyone's going to show like a complete show of hands. We all have too much on our plate. We're all trying, we're scrambling. And especially within leadership, it's really hard to have the time to be able to be open to training being longer or different. It's just like, oh, that's going to be work. And I was that manager years ago where I didn't hire someone on because I'm like, that's going to be more work for me. And I almost didn't hire someone on because I spoke to my director, and rightly so. She said, what are you doing? This is your job, right? To be able to find out how they learn and work best. And that person that I hired on that I wasn't going to ended up being one of our star employees. I think the biggest thing to understand and to consider and to be open to is training and skill acquisition can be longer and is going to look different. So there's so many of the people who have reached out to me, and they're just like, they're being let go, or they're afraid to ask for different accommodations. And so to be open to having like a mentorship or a buddyship, to let them learn how they learn, but offer everything and give them support and make them know that it's okay that it's taking them a little bit longer. Because I am telling you right now, it may take longer to get those skills to where it's needed. But once they have them, it's going to blow your mind. It's like, just be open. Be open. And yeah. To people's needs, and be okay with it taking a little bit longer, because everyone will benefit in the long run.
Okay, I love what you just shared, Nathan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I've met so many people that are doing that, and it's just so hard for me not to react to that and tell them,
Sorry, which one?
don't label people as neurodivergent or having disabilities.
Yep. Because it reminds me of this TV show on Disney. It was called Miss Marvel, where in the end, the guy was saying, like, how can I be normal? And her response is, there is no normal, which I think is true. Because when you go to the organization, every single person, even if they look alike, same race, same job, they're all different. So every single person need to adjust to that.
We are all unique and so very different. I mean, I don't think I'm lying when I'm saying that every single person is uniquely different than everyone else. There's no single person that's identical to someone else. Yeah, Rachel, you wanted to say something.
I would also add, I mean, just going back to what we started with at the very beginning of the conversation with, do you notice anyone on your team who? So personally, I did not know that I was neurodivergent until I was in my early 50s. So did I always think I was a little bit different? Yes. I was a high achiever. I did well in school. I was a director at 4 different companies. I've lived in 9 countries. I have studied 9 languages. I've done a lot, and I am super motivated. And I work with leaders like myself in my practice, in my coaching business. Almost none of my clients knew that they were neurodivergent when they first came to me. They came because they felt either unfulfilled, or that they wanted to be able to do more, or there were specific issues like communication things that they were struggling with. But again, neurodivergence can look like all kinds of different things. So so the labels really don't matter. It's not about the label. It's not about a diagnosis. It's not about anything like that. It's just about being open and welcoming and accepting everyone's different way of thinking and processing.
I agree. I didn't find out I was neurodivergent until I was 40, and I was working in the field of neurodivergence, supporting others, and I had no clue. But to speak to what Nathan said, that there is no normal, and we need, as a society, to be more accepting, or to make it clear across the board from a very young age that there is no normal. My teenage girls are going to school, and to see them coming home with this, because the same systems are within the educational system, and crying and saying, I just want to be normal, and how heartbreaking that is. And think, like, all of us have gone through our lives just thinking like, oh, we're a little quirky, a little weird. Why can't I just be normal? To normalize that there is no normal, especially for our younger people, because it's 53% of Gen Z are identifying as neurodivergent. So there's going to be a flip of the neuro minority in the next few years. So we might as well, this is the time to make those changes, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we are at time, 1 more minute left. I have to say, I had so much fun and I've learned new things. So I hope that everyone in audience did the same. After we are downloading the recording, I'm going to upload it to YouTube. So I will send a follow-up email with a link to the recording, and also our panelists have kindly put together a list of resources that we are going to share in that follow-up email. Now, some final words from our panelists before we wrap it up.
I've really enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Rachel, Lisa, and Nathan, for joining me for this conversation. And thank you to all of our participants for attending. Emily raised a hand. Emily, you wanted to share something? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I will be sending the recording shortly this week.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me.
everybody.
Bye.